What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the next episode of the podcast Sitting Tall with me, Casey Ellen, and my buddy Tony Chamberlain. And I always seem like I'm having like these special moments of these guests that I have on here. It's a big guest for me. It's Anthony Purcell. He was one of the first people that I actually spoke to after I had my accident, and he helped shine some light and gave me some good advice. And it was a good conversation, and I just appreciated him opening up just to answer a stranger in need. So Anthony, thank you for coming on the show. And just a little bit about, we're going to give a little bit about Anthony real quick. He's a little motivational speaker. He created the Walking with Anthony Foundation, which we're going to get into in a little bit. And just thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Glad we finally got to get on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, finally put the voice to the face rather than the keys,
Absolutely. And,
yeah.
Very kind words, and help you when you first got injured in any way that you can. So pretty pumped to be on here and kind of explore a little bit and just talk through some things.
So I have a quick question. Since you said that you helped Casey out, was it like kind of like a mentor thing? Because like I'm still learning new stuff about you, because I kind of just jumped into this conversation. So like just kind of refresh our audience like how you did hear about Casey and like how that went about.
Yeah, I think Casey might have DM'd me first, but we have Walking with Anthony, which is a charity that I created. What we do is we help people that are less fortunate financially, the rehab, things of that nature, from a rehab standpoint. But also, I like to partake in like mentoring and helping people through the injury that might hurt and they don't really know what's going on, because as you know, you get hurt, your whole world flips upside down. So, I had a couple of mentors when I first got hurt, and it just really helped and went a long way, knowing that you're not alone in this thing. So I wanted to pay it forward. That's one of my favorite parts of charity is, helping people on a more personal level and saying, hey, you're going to get through this, or maybe, hey, this is where you should go rehab, or you should do this to stop your spasms or reduce your spasms, or maybe you should get a standing frame, because just stuff like that where I can talk with them and kind of help them out. And it's not so much like, a doctor saying it, or like somebody maybe in like a hospital setting. So that's where I get like my motivation and like joy, is like really talking people through things and helping them out.
See, Tony, I'm always sliding into people's DMs, man.
And that's awesome.
That's the trick. And I remember just going on. Sorry, Tone. I remember just when I first got hurt. Like you said, I was lost. Like they didn't give me a mentor at the place where I was injured, and it was just like I didn't know. And then I came across this page, a young guy like myself, and I noticed, and he got hurt. I think he got hurt maybe a year or two before me. And it just kind of like, I was like, let me ask this. See if he'll answer some questions. And just kind of like, I don't even remember. No, it wasn't about anything important. I think it was just nice to have someone to talk to that was going through something similar. And that definitely helped me kind of, get back into like talking with people, just because, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of had a fear of like, getting back out there and like, putting myself out there, meeting new people, so that was definitely like a big help. And, obviously that's why I'm glad you got you on the podcast, and glad like, we can kind of shed some light on the good things that you guys are doing. And it's just, everything comes full circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Happy to do it. And that's the thing. Like, first of all, my fears when I first got hurt were absurd. Like I was like, I totally relate to you. Like I was like scared to even go out of my house. Like I was scared to have people look at me in a wheelchair. I was scared to transfer in front of public places. This is how bad it was. My cousin, who would drive me around, we would go out to, let's say, dinner. And there'd be like a valet. No, dude, you got to find somewhere else to park. Like, because that's how messed up my brain was and how like weak I was. Because I wouldn't say weak, but like just how like, I wouldn't say fragile, but like not 100%. And I used to try and find parking. If we went to like a restaurant or bar, it would be like behind the place or something, just somewhere private. It took me a long, long time to actually not care about what other people thought of me. And, I'm a big mental health guy. Like when you first get hurt, it's all physical in the beginning, but really your mental brain is just all messed up. And I want to give back in that And that's from that standpoint, and shed light on the mental health side of things with having a spinal cord injury, because it's not talked about enough. A lot of people will look and be like, okay, that guy's in a wheelchair. He probably broke his neck, broke his back. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, it does suck. But you know what sucks more is having to live with that, and like having it be in your brain and not being able to heal from that. So, Casey, I can totally relate to some of the struggles that are going through your brain when you first have this thing. It's like your confidence just plummets down, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was gonna talk a little bit upon that, and my experiences, I remember the same thing just going through my head, like, oh, this is, this sucks. This is how life's gonna be now, and like, being embarrassed about even just going into public because of my injury. But it's just one of those things that you kind of gotta get over quickly if you want to just live your life. I mean, not quickly, like you kind of sit in it for a second, but like you just tend to realize that like life isn't all about like people judging you. It's about like living your life. And once you get to that point, I feel like that's when more peace comes into your life. So like, it's funny that you guys talk about that, because it did take me a while also to like, finally feel like, oh, okay. Like even in the beginning, like I didn't even want to talk to somebody in a wheelchair, because I'm like, whatever, like I didn't want to have like friendships like that. But now I totally understand that like these are people that are living the same lifestyle that I'm living. Why am I not asking them questions or like, picking their brains? So like when you finally realize that, I feel like you really take another leap in your new lifestyle, and you start to realize that life can be better if you just talk to somebody about it. That's why the mental thing comes into play a lot. Yeah, 100%.
I totally 100% agree with you. I feel like when my mind started healing, my body started healing as well. Like once I started being like, I don't really care what anyone thinks. I'm going to just live my life, and I'm confident within my life, and I'm just going to do it. I started, like you said, having a more peaceful presence in my brain was just healing, and I got more confident. I was more happier. Before I always thought, okay, yeah, there's no way any other girl's gonna like me. My life's over. All this stuff, and all those bad thoughts that, like you said, were just sitting there. Once those start healing, I mean, you look at life differently. Like you go into working out or lifting or rehabbing, and it's like you feel more like an able body. You know what I mean? It's just a weird thing. It's like once you start healing your mind, you heal truly from this injury and the traumatic, things that we went through.
It's 100%, and it's good that because we don't really ever really talk about the mental aspect of it sometimes when we're on here. It's just like I started going to therapy a couple years ago, which has been amazing, and I wish I would have gone sooner. But like you said, it's just I still sometimes have like those little questions in my head. Like sometimes I like, oh, do I really want to go? Like I have to sometimes I have to talk myself into it, or I'll talk myself out of it, which is stuff that I'm still trying to, that's just me and my personal trying to work on some stuff. But the mental side of the spinal cord injury, I feel like, it might be just as difficult as the physical, if not worse, because, like the physical part, we can get used to, getting by the way we do in a wheelchair or feeding ourselves differently. But, watching like, Dad, stop trying to distract me. And then it made me forget my train of thought. Wasn't even see in the middle.
You were on a roll. You were on a roll too.
I felt good, bro. I felt like I was crushing that. But either way, it's just the mental part of it is just such an uphill battle for us, and I feel like people might not really understand that. People might see like, oh, look at him, he's living his life, he has a job, he's doing good, but they don't know what's really going on inside of our brains, like thinking about like how like what it's like to just like, oh, I gotta find a close parking spot because don't want to get caught in the rain, or just there's little things that we have to think about that other people don't.
Yeah, and then those things, like I can relate to what you're saying. It's like some things we have to think about that other humans don't think about. Like for example, I went to see Sam Morril on Sunday at a comedy show, and when my buddy invited me, immediately my brain was like, okay, what kind of tickets do we have? Is it wheelchair accessible? How are we getting there? Or is there wheelchair parking? But that's like everywhere I go. Consistently, I'm thinking, number one, is it wheelchair accessible? What's the parking like? Are there curbs? Is it going to be flat? Just stuff. Is the seating going to be somewhere where the chair can get in rather than having, it squished. So it's just stuff that we have to live with, that a lot of people don't really recognize. They'll look at us and be like, oh, he's in a wheelchair. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it does suck. But, like I said before, what really happened, when the mental state of what we're dealing with up here, you can kind of get a good grasp of what we're dealing with.
It's funny that you say that because just the other day, I do physical therapy right now. I do it with students from the university down the street from my house, and it's interesting that we talk about all kind of things while we're in physical therapy because it's a teaching thing. And just yesterday, I was at PT and we started talking about, I forgot what it was. It was just like something about oh, how do you go about your day and doing easy ride to for instance the supermarket or something like that. And I'm like, for you it might be an easy ride, but for me I got to plan that out. I'm like, okay, how am I going to get there? How, just like you said, how many curbs are there? Is it handicap accessible to get in and out of there? Is it am I going to be able to reach everything or blah, 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 blah?
Right.
These are things that we have to constantly think about. And I don't think other people think that way. Well, they don't know that we think that way, but that's our typical days. When we're going out, it's not just an easy, let's jump in the car and go. It's just all right, I got to kind of plan this out a little bit. So my experience is going to be, decent, you know what I mean? And not be stuck in a car or something like that,
Yeah. So
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, 100%. So
I feel like we all can.
With the Walking with Anthony Foundation, how did that come about? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no, love to. Okay, so I got hurt in 2010, the ocean, Miami. My cousin played for the Dolphins, and the Super Bowl was down in Miami. It was the Saints and the Colts. So he was like, hey, why don't you come down? I was like, all right, cool. Went to all the cool parties with the athletes. That's when I broke my neck. A year after that, they always say the first year is typically the hardest with a spinal cord injury. Everybody is different. But a year after that, my mom came into my room, and my mental health was still not great. I mean, I was recovering. She was like, I want to, start a charity with you. Let's start a charity. And I was like, absolutely not. Are you? I was almost pissed that she would, because my mental health was so bad. I was like, how dare you start a charity? We're blah, 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 all that. So she was like, listen, we're going to start this charity now, and you're going to start healing people and see the difference that you'd be able to make in helping people, and it'll help you. So I never believed her. We started doing our events. Each event that went on, my mental health and my well-being kept getting better and better and better. As I helped more people, I was fully on board. So we started it back in, I think, 2011, 2012. We have charity fundraisers around the nation. We do golf tournaments. We do galas. We do social fundraisers. And we don't take any pennies. It's all the money that we raise literally goes to people with spinal cord injury, and we help them out with rehab. We help them out with typically anything that they need help with, like reconstructing their house if there's a curb in the way. That's something that we would take a look at. We've given away cars before that are wheelchair accessible. So we want to make sure that we help people with their rehabilitation. That's obviously the most popular way that we support people, but there's some families that just need stuff goes before that, get to rehab, that's great, but they might need a nurse or a caregiver or something along the lines of that. So we're open to anything that they really need as long as it will give them a better life. And that's where Walking with Anthony came about. We've been doing it for a very long time now. Since 2012, so what was that, 15, 16 years? And it's great. I mean, we just help as many people as we can. We have a ton of applicants. It breaks our hearts, and we can only help as many people as we have the money to do so. So that's why we just stand behind it and try and raise as much money as possible to help this small yet close spinal cord injury community.
Love that. I think one of the reasons also why I think I slid into those DMs was because I think we got hurt similar, diving into the water. So I think that kind of made me feel comfortable enough to reach out to you, since it was all right, this guy experiencing kind of a similar situation. I'm like, how is he doing? I'm like, how's he getting by? How did he start his, the foundation? And I think that's great that because it makes sense that you're healing while you heal others, and that's just
right.
that's an amazing amazing thing that people might not really like grasp. You know what I mean? They might just see on the outside, like, oh, look, you know, he started a foundation, look, he's doing a real thing, but they don't really know how. It's not like you're not just helping other people, you're helping yourself, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like every time I get on the phone with someone, and for example, we've given a couple grants recently. We've surprised a couple people, and we've done it through something similar like this, where it'd be like a Zoom, and we get on, we hear their story, and we surprise them with a grant. And it's just seeing not only the the kid who's injured, but the
Mm-hmm.
family members who get emotional and cry. You could just tell they've been hurting so bad, and they
Yeah.
don't know where to look. And we bridge that gap, and we let them know that we're giving them this grant. It just changes their lives. And I just hang up the phone call knowing, damn, man, like we're in a good position. We're so blessed to be in this position to help so many people. And yeah, I mean, I'm just beyond thrilled to be put in this position to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome because like I can just imagine like if I was in a situation, because I think we've all been there where we're in a situation where we don't know how we're going to go about paying for something, and thank God for a lot of grants that come through a lot of times for like, sometimes you have to apply for multiple grants because just like you said, you can only have a certain amount of money for something. And like I think what people need to know, that if they're listening to this, that just because there's one person willing to help doesn't mean that they're the only people that are willing to help. Most of the time, you just have to reach out to more people and just, see where it lands, because a lot of people think that maybe one person is going to take care of everything for them. But like, in reality, you only get a certain amount of money, which I totally understand nowadays, because I thought that way myself when I was trying to get like certain things for my house. I was like, why isn't this person helping me out? Like, I can't understand. Like, and I was kind of mad at it. But then like I sat in it, I realized that, oh, okay, there's a reason why they can't help me with the whole thing, because there's other people out there that need
Yeah.
help also. You know what I mean? So like I commend you for, for what you do and the charity that you do, but like people need to understand that like you can only do so much. So like if there is something else like that they need, then maybe just like, have other people that they can reach out to. You know what I mean? That's the best you can do. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what are some things that you guys do to kind of heal you or help you, whether it be, obviously you do your rehab, then you got your mental stuff, obviously. What are some things or tips that you can give some people that are listening to this, that might be in similar situations, ways to heal, whether it be physical or mental? Do you guys have anything like that?
Tone, you want to go first? Want me to go first?
Sure, yeah, I'll go first. I would say like for mental, I would say this is my therapy. Like I love talking to people. Like even just talking to Case, he's my boy. Like I love just shooting back and forth like between, because it like takes time out of my day where I'm not just sitting and like, oh, my life sucks
Yeah.
and everything like that. It's just like I can communicate with somebody else that's going through the same shit that I am, and it's nice to be able to just do that. And this is like I said, this is like my therapy. So like it's wonderful to do that on the mental side. On the physical side, like I'm trying to get out and do as much as I can physically, like not just going to the gym, but like going to physical therapy, or like even just going out and enjoying like the day or something like that. Like I was just telling kids the other day, I was driving around and like kind of bumping some tunes in my car while I was just bumping along. And that right there is like, that kind of goes towards your mental too, like just getting out and enjoying a little bit of your day and not sitting in like your sorrow. Like that's big to me. So like I would say like mentally, like that's where I'm sitting on that.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
For me, is like we talk about this being Tony. Like the podcast is like it might not be as popular as like some of these like famous guys podcasts and stuff, but this is something like we get to talk to people like yourself and people from all walks of life. Like we have had people. We had somebody from South Africa. Like we've had all over, and it's just like it's nice to hear other people's stories. It's nice to talk to other people doing good things in the community. And like for me, I would just recommend people to go out and try to put yourself out there. Like I'm still in the process of trying to do that as well. Like trying to put myself out there, meet new people. Because like you said before, when you're like, oh man, I don't know any other girls. Like I don't know how this is going to work out. Like like we got to put ourselves out there, and it's not just just saying it. You have to try to do it. So that would be my kind of like I guess a little tip is just kind of slide in people's DMs, man. You never know who's gonna answer.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah, dude. I mean, mentally, like I would say, obviously with the charity and things like that. Physically, like Tony was saying, like working out, like I think working out is like so big for the physical space, but also like your mental health, like just even putting on, listening to, things that get me hyped up, lifting. I feel like that blood flow and like my spasms are really annoying. If I'm standing, the spasms will reduce and I'll be able to like sleep good at night. And working out is a huge thing. It's almost like a 2-in-1. Like you said, like driving around is kind of like a 2-in-1. Tony, you're saying like you get in, it, helps you physically because you're like smelling the fresh air and stuff like that. But really that helps mentally as well because you're like ripping good tunes and just like windows down and like rolling down the street. So pretty similar. I'd say it's pretty similar to me as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Tony because I saw that.
By the way, the podcast, when you said the podcast is you're not as big as everyone else, everyone starts somewhere, baby. Come on now.
You got all right. I take it back, people. I take it back. You're right.
It's just like it's like, to be real, like me and Casey, like we knew that we're gonna do this not for like super popularity, just to kind of like get out there and like be able to scratch people's brains, or like even just like maybe we can help somebody in this small world that we have of like podcasts. You know what I mean? Like maybe somebody's listening to this going, "Oh crap, I didn't know that." You know what I mean? And that's just those small things is like what I love about this podcast. And we're not super popular, and hopefully one day maybe we will take off, and and we can look back at this and go, hey, remember those days that we were just like, the little guys, and it's just going to keep trucking along, because everything starts off like you never know how it's going to start. It always starts off rough because you're just starting something, but I do see like a good vision with this, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Just like a lot of our guests actually say to us, it's like, I can't wait to see where you guys go from here. And it's true. And I can't wait myself to see like where we go from here, because I hope one day we will take off and meet some cool people and like be able to help people that are in need.
Well, dude, you guys might be helping people that you don't even know about. You guys are probably helping people that you don't even know about. And that's huge. I mean, if you can help just one person, one person out of all this, it's totally worth it. You know what I'm saying? So like, as long as you just keep doing it, you're going to be helping people, and people, that will come eventually when you start catching steam and stuff. But in my eyes, like the real joy of it is like, I'm getting on here. I mean, obviously I know Casey and stuff like that, but if I have a podcast opportunity anywhere, I'll take it, because if I can just reach one person and change the way that they look at a spinal cord injury in a more positive way, then that's why I get up in the morning. I mean, to be real, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He took the words out of my mouth. Like I was just gonna, like, just being able, like, it might be, just gradually on its way up, and it's just like being able to, if like, there's one person watching who just, might have makes their day a little bit better, or they find out a little trick of something that me and Tony talk about, or from our guests, or they learn something about, like, oh hey, like, people, just because they have a spinal cord injury, they're still living their life and doing their thing. Like if it just can make anybody just their day a little bit better, like that's why me and Tony are still doing it. Like, we're gonna keep doing it, and with 100,000 views, with 10 views, it doesn't matter. Like we're just gonna keep rocking, because like Tony said, like this is therapy for us too. Just me and Tony chatting it up, talking shit with each other. Like before we get on the episode, it's like we kind of makes my day. Like, I might not be in the mood. I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta do the podcast. But then like, as soon as I log into the studio and me and Tony, it's like, all right, let's do it. It's time to crush some shit, As
soon as I see his pretty face, I get ready, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
I mean, I don't blame him. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Do you guys live close to each other?
No, somewhat close. Not crazy close, but
like Tony's Rhode Island. I'm in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We talk about it a lot on the show. We met at this program called Empower Spinal Cord Injury. I think you might know about it, you might not, but it's like a 2-week spinal cord program, and it's basically bring people from all over the world, and it's just like all volunteer based, and they basically just show you that there's life after the injury. And they do physical therapy, occupational therapy, yoga. We go kayaking, ride a satellite bike. Just they shows you all these things that you could still do, and it's like that program brought me back to life. Like it brought me out of my shell. It made me like come back to myself. And then I met Tony there a couple years ago, and we kind of just hit it off right away, and just been buddies ever since.
Yeah,
great podcast.
Yeah, no, just
creating a
just
podcast.
creating a podcast, just trying to change the world, just one little squeak at a time.
I don't know if we actually talked about it like on here, but like we both, so the way how we both ended up coming to this podcast is that we were talking to a mutual friend that we were thinking about doing separate podcasts. Like I was going to do mine, he was going to do his, and she actually brought us together, and we talked about similar things that we wanted to do, and that's when it all started. I think it's just like we were all like, oh, we're both thinking about the same thing, so why not do it together? And it does work better. I think it's better when like we bounce ideas off each other and then talking to a guest and maybe just Casey and you talking, you know what I mean? Because like we could both chime in with something that maybe they didn't think of, you know? So I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad we're going with it. So
I'm glad you did it too. But yeah, I would think it'd be a lot better if you like 3 instead of 2, because like you said, you can just bounce stuff off of each other and it could work out a little bit better, I feel like.
Yeah.
Are you petitioning to be a guest host on the City Hall podcast?
Yeah, bring me in. Bring me in whenever you want.
What's going on?
Bring me in. We'll get 4 screens
great
on the.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty cool thing to bring you in here. We'll interview somebody. Maybe it'd be cool if we can interview somebody that you guys might have helped out. That your foundation might have.
That's a good idea. I would be so down for that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that after, and we'll try to put something on the books. Look at that. People helping people. It's powerful stuff, man. It's just
that's what it's all about, man.
That's why we love this thing. Yeah, you see how just like right there, we all 3 of us just smiled at the same time. Like it's just like this is exactly why I wanted to do this, and I'm pretty sure this is the same reason why Tony wanted to do it.
Yeah. So if out of all the people that you've interviewed, what would be, now that we're bouncing off stuff of each other, what would be like the most powerful thing that people have said that is like a common thing?
One thing sticks out to me right away is when we had Cruz Bogle on the show.
Oh yeah,
and he had you know him? Yeah, he had a pretty awesome saying where he said, because like how all of us with spinal cord injuries, we always wish we had a little bit more. Like like quads wish we had a little bit of more hands. Paras wish they could walk. All these kind of things. Like, and he was just saying how he said comparison is the thief of joy. And that is something that just kind of, ever since he said that to me, it's basically kind of stuck with me. This, like, so whenever I'm having a moment where I'm like, I'll see somebody like, with a, I'm a C4 or 5, 6, right? I see somebody with a similar diagnosis and they're like, maybe walking or like, maybe have hands. And I'm just like, man, why? And like, I'll start to get to that point where I get jealous, but then like, I'll think like that, all that is just taking away from my happiness. Cause like, there's nothing I can do about what I don't have. You know what I mean? I just have to focus on what I do have and do the most with what I can. So that's definitely something that my man Cruz.
So you took the wind right out of my sail, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, that was probably the most powerful quote I think I've heard on here. It's just like when he said that, I was just like, wow, like that sunk in. Like, I was like, that is so true, because we constantly compare ourselves to other spinal cord injuries that like maybe that have been in it for 10 years or 20 years, that we're just like, wow, this person's got it all together, when they don't have it all together. They just maybe look better at it sometimes or something, you know what I mean? And we're just constantly comparing ourselves to people. It's just like, it's taking away from you. It's taking away from your happiness. So like that is the most powerful thing I think I've come across so far, is just him saying that. And I live through that every day. Like I never compare myself to anybody anymore. I'm just like, oh, maybe that person like, is having a great day because of, something somebody else said to them. So like, that's my way of like saying I don't compare myself all the time. It's just like, I'm constantly saying to myself, like, you can be happy without, comparing yourselves to other people and what they're doing, when you just need to just live in the moment. You know what I mean?
And that doesn't even have to relate just with spinal cord. Like like people, able-bodied people are always comparing themselves to what other people have. Like, like, oh, that person has a nicer house or a nice car. Everybody should literally take that quote and just drink it like a cup of tea every morning, because that is literally powerful stuff, man.
I will make a t-shirt out of it eventually.
Make the t-shirt. We need it. But I was going to say, I feel like for like in the beginning of my injury, like I can relate to that a lot more just because my mental health was messed up back then, way worse than it is now. But like, for example, you go into the gym. I went to Project Walk, which was a gym in Southern California for spinal cord injury patients. And I'm a C5, C6, and I used to go in there, and there were people with the same injury as me that were like walking around. I was like, holy shit, like I can get there. Like, you know what I mean? And as I started growing and growing and growing, and my mental health got better, you gotta learn to stop comparing yourself to others, especially with this injury, not limited to this injury, but especially with this injury, because every injury is different. And he or she might be looking great from a physical standpoint, but might be struggling way worse than you are in another area. So you have to give and take, you know what I mean? And I think that is a very good quote by Freeze. It's a really good take.
Yeah. And if we're gonna go highlights of the podcast so far, I had like, I'm a big Survivor fan, so like I don't know, short the episode. I had the season 15 winner from Survivor, China, was on the show, and he
Very cool.
he creates all these custom Funko Pops now, and I'm a big collector of Funko Pops. I don't know if you can see behind my little blurry big background, but
no, it's blurred now.
It's blurry. Yeah, all those little figurines, those are Funko Pops, and he like made a custom one. I had to make a custom one of myself, and it's just like that was like my fanboy moment, like because I just felt like you could just see me in the video. I'm just like as I'm talking to him, but yeah, definitely some highlights of the podcast so far.
That's awesome.
I have like, I think I take a little bit of something from every interview we have, like, because I'm always going into this very like open-minded and like trying to think like what can I do to better myself, because obviously I don't have it all together, you know. I'm just a normal person, you know, and I'm coming into this like very, like I said, open-minded and trying to talk to our guests and just like have a good time. But all at the same time, like as I'm talking to you, I'm always taking something from our guests. Like I'm always getting some piece of advice where I'm just like, oh wow, like I never thought of it. And I feel like every episode we've done, I've come away from something. Like I can't name every single episode, but like if I go back and watch it, be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I remember. That's what I remember.
Because Tony, I remember every single number, the order.
Yeah. There's no way I can do that. But I would have to say just like Cruz is one of the definitely the ones that are up there, because it amazes me that like he does paintings with his mouth too. Like it blows me away. I'm like, this guy could paint a beautiful picture with his mouth. Like that's just amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would say, going back to the comparisons, the thief of joy, another thing that I've always said to myself and I've learned is that when you're doing rehab or you're in any type of situation, to always celebrate the small things. Because when you get hurt and you're rehabbing and stuff, like, you know, in the beginning, for example, you see that guy who's the same injury as you and you see that he's walking. All you're thinking about is, oh, I want to get to where he is. I want to walk, and I don't want to work toward, I just want to walk. And the fact that he's doing it, I'm definitely going to do it. And the fact that I haven't done it yet makes me feel like shit. You know, it's almost like you're trying to get to that point, and it messes with your mind, it depresses you. But if you celebrate the smaller things, and when I say smaller things, I mean, if you're able to do something today that you were not able to do yesterday, and you consistently celebrate those victories, and those will add up. And it's almost like the saying, you know, it's not the end result, but it's the journey. But you need to celebrate each day that you are able to progress. So if somebody's watching this and maybe they're a little bit more fresh than we are from getting hurt, and they feel like they're not progressing, try to celebrate the smaller victories, because that will sharpen your mental health on the way to your journey, give you more confidence, and it'll make you more happier in getting to that end result. That's what I would say to that.
That's 100%. Because I remember when I first got hurt, like, you know, being such a high level of injury, like it wasn't just like my physically like moving my arms and legs. Like I couldn't breathe on my own. Like I couldn't talk. Like I couldn't even move my arms. I couldn't feel anything. So like I wish I would have had this mindset at that time, because just being able to talk and breathe on my own, or maybe move my arm a little bit, like that's just such a huge gain that like I never really like I never gave myself any credit for, and I never celebrated, and like that, it's obviously it can't go back now, but like hindsight being 2020, it's just like, man, like those little things, like just being able to lift my arm, like huge, like because they told my parents like I'd be on a ventilator and I wouldn't be able to move the rest of my life, blah blah blah, and like being able just to breathe on my own, like, hey, go fuck yourself, like. I could, I'm gonna do as much as I can do for myself. I'm gonna get to the point where my body pretty much maxes out, like, and then hopefully, some brain implant, some Neuralink thing comes along and helps us out a little bit more.
We'll become robots then.
Listen, I will rock an Iron Man suit if that.
I mean, I would too.
That gets me moving, man. Put me in it. I'm out.
Well, they have Neuralink, but go ahead, Tony. Go ahead. I want to hear what you're saying.
I was going to say, since we're talking about like the whole like just being able to live in that moment where you're just like you got to what's the words I want to say here? So let me scratch this. Let me start from the beginning. So the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and they showed me a video of like when I first got injured and like trying to do a basic, like for instance, like a basic transfer from like my wheelchair to a bench or something like that. And oh my God, just looking at the video brought back so many like, like that. It was so much of a struggle back then. And now I do it like with ease because it's just time. Like you got to give yourself time. And I feel like a lot of people don't sit in that moment at the time, like they just like, oh, my life's over, this, that, and the other thing. But you got to understand everything takes time to heal, and once you realize that and like start to push yourself to move forward, when you actually look back, you can see how big of a change you've made like over time, and it for me it amazed me. It's just like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to get to the point I'm at now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, back then, I mean, just thinking about all of in the hospital, and then you get the transfer board, and just certain little things that we were just like, we didn't really focus on it because in our mind our lives were over. And then we take a look back and see how far we've come with the amount of time that we've been injured. Isn't it absolutely nuts when you see how crazy those videos and pictures are?
Mind blown. I saw a video the other day of the first time I was in a power chair, and like I was sitting all slumped over, like I think I maybe went like 5 feet, and I was like, oh, my arm's tired, like, and then now it's like it's like second nature. It's like it doesn't even like feel like I'm doing anything when I'm driving my wheelchair. You know what I mean? So it's just like those, like you said, you see those videos, and it's just like you guys were saying, it's like, holy crap, like it's just like that's how bad it was. Like, oh man. We our mind heals, so we kind of forget about those tough days, like, but there always will be there, like, when we'll see like a picture or something. So it's a nice little friendly reminder to give yourself a little pat on the back, like, hey,
once in a while
we're still here and we're still kicking butt, man.
And another thing is like, can you imagine if there were, like, when I got hurt was in 2010, like, imagine if there were podcasts like this that we could listen to. It would be able to guide us to, a better future and like get us through those hard days. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't even know what a podcast was back then. Nowadays, we have the ability to really help people, and that's why getting on this, podcast was, is an honor, and to speak with you guys, of course. And you guys are going to make a difference in people's lives. I mean, think about it. It's awesome what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Appreciate it, man. That's why we do it. I mean, when you hear somebody say that, that's not like, because me and Tony will kind of like, we'll say that stuff all the time, but then like when you hear somebody who's not a part, like Casey and Tony, and you hear somebody saying that, hey, like what you guys are doing is, it, like, I don't know, I get a little giddy inside, like a little. I don't know about you, Tony. So like when hearing, like, I'm just like, all right. I mean, you can keep talking about it. You don't have to stop. keep buttering me up.
No, stop. Oh man, it's so true. It's funny. Like we always say that, like, oh yeah, we're not really getting as many views or whatever. But I know that, just like you said, as long as we can help one person, man, I feel great. Like that's why we keep trucking along with this, and I love, and like I said, I just love talking to new people and meeting new people. So this is great.
I love picking, because Tony doesn't really do the social media too much, so like I like being able to find guests that, like, will kind of make, just talk. I mean, Tony will meet somebody that he's never would probably ever even talk to, or because Tony's not going to sit there because Tony doesn't do social media, so he's not sliding in DMs. So
Nope.
like, having being able to meet somebody who, like, who impacted my recovery, like this is like I thought this was a no brainer when I was like, getting people to come on the show. Like I thought it'd be a great thing for Tony to meet somebody who, it's not just somebody who's like inspiring other people and doing good things in the Spinal Cord community, but like who had a direct impact on myself. So like I thought that was no brainer for this episode.
Full circle moment, right? It's stuff we talk about. Full circle moments, man.
Full circle moment, man. I got to slide into Anthony's DMs about a decade ago, and now we finally get to do the face-to-face. It's a good day in the world today. But Tone, do you have anything else, or Anthony, is there anything else you want to share while we still have you, or I feel like you got to.
I don't think so. Just touching basically back on, like, when you have a spinal cord injury, it's a very small community, such as the Sitting Tall podcast and other podcasts, where people can get on and share their story. It's an awesome outlet for, like I said, for people to have. And the more episodes that you guys do, and the more episodes that other people with spinal cord injury are doing, is just going to increase the awareness of things to do, whether it be stuff that's going to help with mental or stuff that's going to help with physical. Like I was mentioning before, like, God, I wish I had this, man.
Yeah.
I wish I had this, because it would have really, really helped me during the tough and dark times when I first got hurt. So kudos to you. Keep rolling, keep doing it, keep getting people on here. Just like I said, happy to be here, and let's run it back again. I'll get somebody that we helped with Walking with Anthony. Yeah, I'd love to, 100%. And we'll get on here and talk about their experiences, and let's learn together. We'll learn from people.
Love it.
I love it.
Just so thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another episode of the podcast Sitting Tall with me, Casey Ellen, my boy Tony Chamberlain. Just want to give a special shout out to our sponsors, Seven Bros Apparel, and keep a lookout for the next one, guys.
Love.